right, guys, I'm really excited. Today we have Cody. He is the founder and CEO of Everbee, which is the Chrome extension that I talk about all the time on my YouTube channel. It is helping Etsy store owners and entrepreneurs that are trying to get into Etsy learn how to make data-driven decisions when it comes to doing keyword research, the product designs they're going to be making, to make sure and ensure that they're going to be competitive before they spend a lot of time, money, and energy developing products that may or may not sell. So using his tool to really put data behind your choices and the higher level decisions that you need to make as you're entering the Etsy business space. So I'm super excited to have you, Cody. Welcome to my channel.
Hey Anna, yeah, thank you guys. And yeah, I really appreciate you having me on.
Yeah. You have a really, really crazy story. You are, essentially like a serial entrepreneur. You have an intense entrepreneurship background from like real estate. You also are an Etsy seller and an Amazon seller, which we know Amazon is like e-commerce senior year level expertise. But now you're into SaaS, which is software as a service, which is what Everbee is. Tell us a little about you and your background and how you come to get into this world of software.
I'm Cody, founder of Everbee. That's a product research tool for Etsy sellers. We help Etsy sellers make database decisions to help grow their business. I got into this, going into your question, I got into this basically by working in a corporate job. I was like recruiting software engineers. I eventually went into a software company, recruited for them for their software engineers for that company for a while, realized like, wow, there has to be way more to life than this, right? Like I started reading books about the rat race and escaping that. And I was kind of like looking for ways to like quickly, or not quickly, but most efficiently get out of that. So I explored like real estate. We started flipping houses in San Diego, which is where I'm based. Started flipping houses like in other parts of the world, doing some investments there too, other parts of the US. And eventually found that like, oh, there has to be a faster way than this even. And that's where I found e-commerce. And so that's when I dove into Amazon FBA. I started like learning everything I possibly could about Amazon FBA, seeking mentorships, seeking coaching courses, dove in there. Did that for a while, failed some, succeeded some, and then eventually kind of pivoted to like Walmart a little bit, eBay a little bit, and then eventually I found Etsy. And as soon as I came from like all those platforms and then I found Etsy, I was like mind blown because it was so much easier, so much more affordable. And there was like this untapped potential that I could like take all my experience from these other platforms, apply it to Etsy. And I didn't have like, there's no such thing as like overnight success, but it was like the success was so much faster on Etsy. And anyway, that's where I kind of found Etsy. Mixed in with that is in that journey, I was very interested in a lot of different businesses, of course, software being one of them, and my background was in software. So I was always thinking about like, how do I provide like a tool or some sort of software that can help like other sellers do these things, and that's where I founded Everbee, and it kind of happened like organically, kind of fell into it. I was building our Amazon business, my wife's Amazon shop, and I was tracking these like spreadsheets. I had these spreadsheets. I was tracking a bunch of different products, and eventually I just realized like, wow, we can like this can be the product that we can help other people with. So that's kind of the backstory.
That's awesome. And so I always am like super intrigued by people that come from an Amazon background, and I don't think people that started on Etsy actually understand how easy Etsy is compared to other
Yeah.
platforms today. I can't speak for like a year from now. But from coming from that like intense Amazon background and understanding what it's like to like literally be doing every single thing right in the eyes of Amazon, but for whatever reason still getting screwed in some issue, some weird,
Yeah.
avenue or whatever, because that's just how Amazon is. Where would you say Etsy is today compared to Amazon, or at what year would you say like Etsy is today with the potential of like kind of what the potential Amazon sellers had back when? Like where is
Mhm.
Etsy today compared to that? If that makes sense.
Yeah, it kind of does. Yeah, it does make sense. So that's a great question. I don't know about like necessarily a year, but I would
Yeah.
certainly say it's early, right? Amazon or Etsy is early compared to like where Amazon is. I would consider Amazon being a very mature platform now. There's obviously tons of opportunity in Amazon as well. We see people do this. I have friends that do Amazon FBA and they do it successfully. It's a much different business than Etsy, But I would say Etsy for sure is like very early. Like there's tons and tons of untapped potential, tons of untapped markets and niches on Etsy. Plus, Etsy is still early. Like they're not even in certain regions of the world right now. Uh, so I mean, it's I think anybody that's like if they're on Etsy or if they're looking to like start an e-commerce business, then Etsy is a perfect starting platform. I would say that has tons of potential. We always hear like this thing. I always kind of crack up a little bit when I hear like people say like Etsy's super saturated and Etsy's dead. Um, you can say that about anything. It just means that like the strategies that you apply just they need to adapt. You need to be doing the right things. It's not as easy as just like taking a picture of your coffee cup on your table you just made and posting it and not thinking about any of these other things. It's not as easy as that. But as long as you apply like the correct fundamentals, like the online selling fundamentals, and you apply it to Etsy, then you have a great chance of success for sure.
So to roll off your point of how you just mentioned just taking a picture of like a coffee mug and then like expecting to become like a seven-figure seller overnight. Because at one point that was what e-commerce was. You
Yeah.
could just throw up a hair tie and because you were the one of three people selling hair ties, you could have $1 million hair tie business. But unfortunately, as competition arises, that's just not the case anymore. So what would you say, for new Etsy sellers or just, even like
Yeah.
older age sellers, what do they need to start doing to ensure that they're locking in top positions and maintaining competitive listings as more competition arises, which is inevitable as time goes on?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, I think it depends on where they are at in their journey, of course. Like if you have a brand new seller, then you need to study like other successful sellers. You need to study their listings. You need to study like the way they present their shop, the way they present their images. You need to be doing those things at the very bare minimum. Um, if you kind of check that box, you move on to like the more advanced strategies, which is like, hey, you need to be using data to back up these decisions that you make. You need to understand what people are actually looking for on Etsy, or more importantly, what are they actually buying on Etsy, and then you have to take that data and put your kind of creative juice on it, right? And that's going to determine what you should be actually listing inside your Etsy shop. Um, so I think to answer your question, to summarize that, is database decisions is like probably the most important thing that an Etsy seller should be making.
So yeah, I love how you just made that analogy. It's like a mix of taking data and then like your own creative expertise, gut
Yeah.
feeling, whatever you want to call it, and bringing that to market instead of just solely basing all your decisions on, oh, I think this is going to sell. No, now we actually have tools. Now we actually have data to put behind these decisions. Whereas when I first got into Etsy, there wasn't an Everbee, there wasn't these tools that
Yep.
existed. But if you compare that to Amazon, where Amazon has had these tools, these larger Amazon companies have run their entire companies based off of these types of tools that give you this data and only go into markets and only go into niches based off of data.
Love that.
So I think that's really important. But like you said, yeah, it's a mix of learning how to read the data, and then taking that data and using your own creative perspective or whatever to build a better product, launch it with a better quality, have a better value proposition, whatever you want to call it. So I
Exactly.
think that is awesome. I've been like consulting and I've been running into sellers that have, oh, I've been around on Etsy for 10 plus years and I know
Mhm.
everything, but yet your sales are dropping every year on end. Why
Mhm.
is that happening? Why would you say that's happening?
So for like the seller that maybe you're talking about is like the seller that's been on Etsy for a while. They have had success. They came on Etsy early on. They had some success. They've like been kind of cranking on Etsy for a while now, and they're wondering now why are my sales dropping like 30%? Why they drop 50% last year? Like what's going on? Well, I think probably because they're probably doing what used to work back then. They're still doing that today, which is just like throw up a couple images, copy your past description, throw in your description, right? Maybe put a couple tags in there, maybe not, and you just kind of expect it to just do what it did in the past. There is more competition coming on Etsy, of course, right? So that means, and that competition is getting smarter because they're using tools like Everbee. So that's the competition. Like they're using data to make their decisions, and if you're not, you're going to fall behind. And that's likely what's happening. You need to be absolutely using like data, for example, like tags of best-selling listings, you need to be looking at those tags, putting them inside your listing, analyzing those, making sure those things are the right fit for your listing. You need to make sure you're doing like using the videos right in your image slots. That's a newer thing. Etsy just rolled that out like less than 2 years ago. They want you to use those video image slots. Uh, Making sure the lighting is good in your images, making sure the description is well optimized, right? Making sure you have a title that's really well optimized. All those things are really, really a big factor in your success on Etsy now, whereas they weren't as prominent, in the past.
That's awesome. That's really, really good value.
I think real
Um,
quick with that is like also kind of going back to your first point, when we kind of when you first started on Etsy, you kind of threw something up there. There wasn't like a lot of tools, a lot of data you could use. I mean, in my past, I was building like products, from scratch, inventing things, kind of throwing it up there and hoping that it would sell, and hope, kind of you hope and pray that the sales are just going to kind of roll in after all these months of hard work, and it's unfortunately just not reality. So I think the Everbee is kind of founded on data, and taking that data to skip all of that hoping and the praying and the disappointment of if something is going to sell or not. Like we already validate that something's going to sell. Now you just need to go make it better or make it your own, and then go and the demand is already there. That's the point.
yeah, awesome. So right now with Everbee, how it is today,
Mhm.
can you explain some of the features that it offers? I mean, I know all of them already, but just
Yeah,
explain
totally.
for people that don't know you and are watching, like what data, if people don't even understand, what do we
Sure.
mean by data? What does that mean for somebody that's completely new or doesn't understand?
Yeah, I know. It's such a big question, right? I would say that the first thing you need to do is stop the guessing. Stop the guessing of, my aunt or my uncle told me that, they like my coffee cup, so I'm gonna go and just put it up there, and maybe other people will like it too. That's guessing. Rather, go to Etsy, type in coffee cup, use Everbee to pull all the data on all the coffee cups on Etsy. Everbee will actually show you which coffee cups are selling and which ones are not. So, for example, this one is a best dad ever. I have 2 kids, right? So, anyway, best dad ever mug. Um, if this one does $5,000 a month, right, and then this other one that I have is doing $0 a month or $100 per month, I know that I should be making designs more like this. And that is what I mean by eliminate the guesswork, right? Everbee shows you that. It analyzes all of that. It analyzes all the different data points that Etsy provides. And we also use our own algorithm for that too. Our own software does that. Point is, I know which coffee cup is selling. So now all I have to do is use my creative energy to make a better coffee cup. Um, that's the biggest probably data. Aside from that, if you already have coffee cups listings, then and you're not getting the traffic that, let's say, your competitors are getting, like you're not getting the sales, you're not getting that success that everybody else is having, you could actually use Everbee to actually see the tags of those top selling listings, see all the tags they're using for their Etsy SEO that's driving all that traffic. You can actually get that from Everbee and put that in your listing.
Oh, that's awesome. Very cool. And right now you have one or two Etsy shops, you said,
One,
or
yeah,
one. Yeah,
yep.
awesome. And that, yeah, I mean, I adopted Everbee, like using Everbee in our SOP processes, standard operating procedure processes. So before we even go to launch a product, we're using Everbee to see, okay, this is the idea that we have in mind for this product that's in our niche or whatever.
Hmm.
Who are those best selling, people in our space? Who gets the most
Yeah.
favorites on their listings? Who pushes the most volumes every month? Who is at the top? Because that is who we're going to be competing with. And I cannot stress this enough. And from consulting, I've seen such a resistance to this with those people that have been around for so long because they just think that they're God and have whatever, but even though that their sales are dropping. And it's like, I
Hmm.
cannot stress enough that these 7, 8, 9-figure Amazon companies, not saying that Etsy is Amazon, but saying that it is still a third party platform, which is contingent. All your sales and all your success is based off keywords and what the search volume is for those keywords. So if you're not adopting these skills, learning how to use software, like these big Amazon agencies that literally make all their decisions based off of search volume and
Yep.
all the data that Everbee gives you, you will get left behind. So what would you say, thank you for all that, by the way, huge value
Uh,
to the channel and people watching, for people that are new or maybe even, dated sellers or longtime sellers. What would you say, just from your own experience with e-commerce? What is like the hardest part? Would you say in selling? Would you say on Etsy today for
yeah. So
you?
yeah, I'd say probably if you're a brand new seller, getting your first sale, getting your first like 10 sales is like the hardest part. So if you're at that in that stage, this is where like you really have to just kind of put your nose to the ground and just like grind it out. Because it's the first 10 sales are hard, because you don't necessarily have that motivation. You don't really have that, like, you're kind of losing steam, right? You just kind of always say like, I hope somebody buys my thing, right? And usually, if you get one sale, then you get to 10 sales. If you get 10 sales, you get to 20, and if you can get to 20, you can get to 50 and 40, or 40 and then 50 and then 100, right? It kind of steamrolls from there. It kind of carries you. So getting the first 10 sales is like the hardest thing. To skip all that hardship is you really need to be selling in demand products. So that's the solution to that one first thing. Um, but I would say, yeah, I guess just that's probably the hardest thing on Etsy. I think after you
Yeah.
kind of have that initial momentum, it kind of just carries you. And of course, you're going to hit those like roadblocks. You're going to plateau for a while after like 100 sales or 1,000 sales or whatever that number is for you. And then you need to like innovate again. But I would say that's probably the hardest thing, is getting your first initial sales, if that answers your question.
No, yeah, for sure it does. And, we've talked about a lot of stuff in this interview, and, you provided us with a lot of value. And now I'm just like super curious, because you have done so many entrepreneur things, and more than any of all of us, like the ups and downs and the gradual climb. Like, it's not always just like this straight shot climb to success.
Hmm.
What in the just an overall business mindset, mentality type of, genre of question here, what would you say is like your one best piece of advice that you would give to somebody else? And then what is the one best piece of advice someone has given to you?
Mm. It's tough. Obviously, there's so much. I read a lot of books.
Yeah.
I listen to a lot of podcasts. I listen to like some YouTube channels, which is inspires me. Um, but the one thing that always kind of like comes back to me is like, I'd say probably the best advice that I could probably give is think big but start small. Meaning, have a big vision, have a big, like, a grand plan, but don't be afraid to just start small. Just take one step. We oftentimes we want to just jump ahead, and we want to leapfrog all the way from like, A to Z, because that's what you want. You want that main result. We see somebody that inspires us. We want to be there. But you need to actually take one step at a time and actually just get from A to B and then B to C first. Otherwise, if you're always thinking like, I just need to get there to the final result, you're thinking so big, and that's awesome. We want to think big, but if you're just only thinking big, you're never going to take the necessary steps to actually get there. And I think you'll run in circles for years and years. So that would be my advice to my younger self, probably, because I would always like think big and I wanted to like just get there. But I think that'd be my advice.
Nice. And then what is the one singular best advice someone gave to you?
Oh, um, it was probably saying that I might butcher the quote.
Okay.
Yeah, um, it's going to be so much harder than you think, but it's gonna feel so much better than you think.
Hmm. No, that
That
makes
makes sense.
sense. No, it does. Like the suffering, like nothing great happens without suffering, whatever you want to define as suffering, but going down before it gets better. But I feel like the more you go down, or the more you suffer, in a sense, you always get a greater return. Like
Yeah.
no great story was built off of it just being like happy all the time.
Oh my gosh, yeah, and we all
Yeah.
know, right? You know, Hannah, right? And other
Yeah.
business
I
sellers,
know.
other Etsy sellers know this, right? If they're listening to this, they very likely know, like, we've all had hardship in life. We also have hardships in business for sure, specifically Etsy, where things don't go your way. Like, you're wondering constantly, business is chaos. It's not like this. It's not as good as like a YouTube video makes it seem, unfortunately, right? We wish it is, but it's not. It's not live. Um, so yeah, I think the last thing that I really like, and I follow Tony Robbins, right? He's obviously very well known throughout the like entrepreneurship community. I'm sure everybody has heard of him. But he mentioned he had this one, training a long time ago, and he was talking about burning the ships, and the idea that you need to burn the boats when you're sailing like along this way over the sea, right? And you finally land in this place. Instead of like having the option to go back, you need to actually burn the ship. So you don't have an option to go back. Like I'm looking forward. I'm going to succeed no matter what, or I die, kind of thing. So you're putting that your
Mm,
back against your own wall, and
mhm.
I've always kind of like that's always resonated with me really well too. Just saying like, hey, like we're gonna figure this out.
Yeah. And the faster you can like shake it off to move forward, yeah, it's like the faster you're gonna get there. That makes sense. Yeah, I definitely that was something that I 100%. It's like the people that can like get emotionally unattached the faster, burn the ship, shake it off, like you said. It's like those are the people getting to the finish line faster because you're able to get more clarity and make progress sooner than just like sitting there festering over
Yeah,
what went wrong, which very good
so agree.
point.
Like we have to enjoy this process too, right? It's like this process is not like you said, it's not going to go like this all the time. We wish it was like that, but it's not like that. So more importantly, we have to really just enjoy this like entrepreneurship process. If you're an Etsy seller, like you just have to enjoy like this grind. Just learn at every single point that you can possibly get. Every video you can consume it, take it in. Um, but like just understand that it's gonna be a while. But it's gonna be worth it. Like it's gonna be hard, but
Yeah.
it's going to be worth it. No one said it's gonna be easy. But anyway, just keep going.
Well, that's awesome. Thank you for that. So well, obviously you guys can find the link to Everbee under this video. I'm also going to link his YouTube channel because Everbee also has a killer YouTube channel that puts out a lot of valuable free content as well on how to use the tool, even though it's very, very intuitive. So all of those links are going to be down below. But do you have any other thing like social media, like LinkedIn or something that you try to get more followers on, or is it mostly just
Yes,
Everbee?
mostly just Everbee. I mean, you could always find me on. I'm on Twitter and on Instagram. I don't really post a whole lot there, so I don't know if you'd be disappointed or not. But probably, probably, obviously go to everbee.io, sign up for free, and link in the description. And YouTube video. I think that's pretty much it.
Oh, the one I was gonna say, his email list. You have a really good email list where if you wanna get notified about, his new videos or also a lot of value videos in your emails, that's another really good place to sign up. So sign up for his newsletter, as well, and you can just do that by going to the link on Everbee, correct?
Yep, that's correct.
Uh, Awesome. Well, thank you so much, Cody, and I'm sure I will see you very soon here on
No, thank you
YouTube.
too. Thank you too, Hannah. I appreciate it. You're inspiring, obviously, with all your videos, all the content that you put out for free. So it's an honor.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, see you.
Bye.